Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into Evergreen Family Medicine's Evergreen Talks. I'm Brian Prowitz, your host, and today we are going to be hearing from Michael Graham, who's a PA at Evergreen Family Medicine, in just a moment about diet and exercise. But this is a fairly special situation. We are bringing back Evergreen Talks because Evergreen wants to provide interactive, informative, accurate information about health into our community in Douglas County. They do it in a lot of different ways, but Evergreen Talks gives us the opportunity to give you more information from physicians, providers, and specialists with topics that matter to you. So today, when it comes to what we're going to be hearing from Michael Graham. Let me introduce him first. Michael is a physician assistant. He was born and raised in Roseburg. He earned a BS from Oregon State University in kinesiology with focus on fitness and nutrition, and a master's from OHSU in PA studies. Michael loves teaching and learning about diets and exercise and how they pertain to personal health. Michael, I practiced kinesiology 4 times before we came on, and I still didn't get it right. But thanks for leading me through there with all the help you gave me. Welcome to Evergreen Talks. Michael, I'll just turn it over to you. And thanks for your conversation here today about diet and exercise.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. What a cool platform to be able to put some information out there. So let's just get started. The title of this is Diets, Everything I Can Tell You in 30 Minutes or Less. We're going to try to keep it kind of brief. I want to preface this with saying this is not an in-depth dive into like a specific diet. I'm not going to talk at length about keto or paleo or vegetarian. It's really just kind of a 20,000 view flyover of the basics of diet, some of the things to look for, and then like how exercise plays a role in that. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So as Brian said, who am I? Why am I talking about diets? You can see some of the stuff up there. I was a PA, site PA at OHSU. I work at Evergreen Family Medicine. My bachelor's of science is in kinesiology. That's how you pronounce it. My focus was exercise and nutrition. So I feel like I have a little bit of some legs to stand on when talking about nutrition and exercise. And so why are we talking about this today? Well, there's a lot of confusion out there, a lot of misinformation. There's pressures for certain things. And there's a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to diet. So the goal today, like I said at the top, is try to simplify some things and then hopefully answer a few questions if anyone has them. So go ahead, next slide. All right, so I came up with some of these questions. I asked some friends, family members, people I work with. What are questions that you guys would want to have covered in a talk? And so I wrote some of these down. As a PA, when I talk about diet and exercise with some of my patients, I hear a lot of things like, I've tried so many diets and none of them don't work. Is there one that I should be doing? And is there one that's guaranteed to get results? Sometimes it's as simple as like, what diets are even out there? Maybe you're kind of looking to start something and you're trying to think, well, what steps should I take to start a diet? The big one is, do I have to exercise? And if yes, how much and even what sort of exercise should I do? Should I be doing cardio? Should I be doing weightlifting? Should I be walking? Is lots of things like that. Sometimes people have questions that they can't lose weight, and they have questions, when should we involve the medical field with some of this? We might talk a little bit at the end about medicines that we use to lose weight and maybe some of the efficacy that isn't quite there. And then at the very end, I want to give you guys 4 starter points to remember in regards to weight loss, diets, and exercise. So let's go ahead and get started. So I've tried so many diets, but they don't work. Is there one best diet that's guaranteed to get results? Go ahead, Brian. So here's some of the diets. We've got keto, paleo diets. You heard me talk about that. The Atkins diet, that's kind of the original diet that kind of got everyone on it. The Long Beach diet, the Mediterranean diet, the vegan diet, The DASH diet, that's a diet in regards to blood pressure, vegetarian, and then even, I don't know if some of you guys have heard about this one, but a carnivore diet where you only eat meat, low carb diets, intermittent fasting, that's kind of an up and coming thing. And then lastly, the seafood diet and eat it, which is one that usually we're all pretty good at. So a lot of diets out there. These are only a few. You could Google diets and you're going to find tons and tons and tons of things, cleanses, certain foods, not eating certain foods. So let's, like I said at the beginning, I'm not going to talk about one in particular. I'm trying to give us a broad overview of kind of what to look for in a diet and how do we go forward with some of that. Go ahead, next slide. So to frame this discussion, the goal for dieting is not weight loss, which might be a shock to some people. The goal is actually a healthy lifestyle. All weight loss is not equal. Somebody could lose weight by developing an eating disorder and they would lose weight, but we would probably all agree that that's not the healthiest way to lose weight. Additionally, you hear horror stories of people coming into see their doctor, and the doctor comments on how great they look because they've lost 15 pounds. Well, maybe they just got over the flu, or they were just in the hospital, or maybe they just found out they had a cancer diagnosis. It's like, well, weight loss really isn't our goal. We actually are kind of looking for more of a healthy lifestyle, which changes a lot about how we choose what diet we're going to do. So number two, the best diet is one that you can maintain. And this is probably the biggest thing. Consistency is the key to any lifestyle change. If you're not consistent with it, you can't expect to get any results. So I want you guys all to know, number three, diets are actually really hard to study. And the data out there is kind of limited to only a few diets. You can Google study for keto weight loss, study for paleo weight loss, Mediterranean diet study, and you're going to pull a bunch of things. But when you really look at the data behind some of those studies, they're few, they're limited in their numbers, they're limited in their participants. And then they also are just hard to study because you can't take a group of people and put them on a specific diet and then totally compare them to a separate group of people that are not doing that diet and control for every single thing with exercise, where they live, their access to food. It's just really, really difficult. So a lot of these studies that we have out there are actually more observation, where we just look at a big group of people and we see, well, what are the foods that they're eating and what's the presence of some of their chronic conditions and do they lose weight? If it's not great, but it's what we have. So I just want you guys to know that it's kind of limited. And I want you to also know that just because we don't know if a diet works doesn't mean that it doesn't work. So that means, like, just because we haven't studied it doesn't mean that it's a really good diet. But it also doesn't mean that it does work and it's super safe. So the last thing is that calories in does not equal calories out. This is kind of big. This was a kind of an older way of thinking of diets, and this has more or less been kind of disproven in science now. It's more about the content and the quality along with the exercise you get, but just counting calories and trying to be in this deficit, one, is probably not going to be easy to maintain. It's going to be hard to be consistent with it. And two, it actually doesn't really work that well. So I want to remember those four things for the talk as we're kind of like framing this discussion. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So diets with the most evidence. Again, like I said, it's really hard to look at diets out there, but these are the ones that are kind of the leading that have been studied the most. The DASH diet, that's a diet for hypertension. It really reduces a lot of sodium. You eat a lot of vegetables. There is leading evidence that's not suggestive of weight loss, but it does give a significant reduction in blood pressures. Other studies did note like a decrease in waist size, but there's less evidence supporting this. There's not a ton of huge studies, but what we do have does say that it's a pretty healthy diet, especially for lowering blood pressure. The Mediterranean diet, that's a little bit more studied, probably one of the best studied diets we have out there. There's larger scaled studies, both observational and randomized, that show weight loss anywhere between 9 and 22 pounds a year. It does reduce heart risk by about 30% when you compare some of the studies. If you are in Roseburg or around Roseburg, you may have heard of Blue Zones. Blue Zones is somewhat similar to Mediterranean. Then vegetarian diet. We actually have a lot of large studies because They did some big studies in California that looked actually at Seventh-day Adventists. There's a large population of people who practice being a Seventh-day Adventist, and a lot of them eat plant-based vegetarian diets. And we were able to look at them and see kind of what their conditions are that happen with those people and some of the weight loss. And so there are lots of studies that show that a vegetarian is actually really effective in weight loss, and equally important, significant reduction in cardiovascular disease, which is really good. So those are three of the big kind of most studied diets, I would say, out there when you weigh the entire weight of evidence. So let's skip forward to the next slide. So diets with emerging evidence. So these are studies that are, or diets that are maybe not new, but they're kind of new in the mainstream. Science has kind of looked at them, but we haven't had a ton of time to really evaluate long-term studies like we have with Mediterranean vegetarian, where we can look at somebody who's born to death and see what that diet did. Keto and paleo, we just haven't had the time to do it yet. So keto, this is pretty popular. You eat a lot of fats and proteins and try to eliminate carbs or keep it to low, like usually less than like 50 carbohydrates or 40 carbohydrates, depending on what you're trying to do. So there are lots of studies that show that this is effective at losing weight. There's even books written about this. However, like I said, these are pretty small studies. We don't have like big studies that I know of. If you do, go ahead and let me know. But studies of over 20,000 people that are doing this diet and comparing them to others. Much of the evidence supporting the keto diet actually comes from early use, like in the early 1900s almost, for its use in the treatment of seizures. Like I said, we don't have long-term studies regarding its effect on cardiovascular disease or stroke prevention, but it is an area of future research. We know that eating lots of, if you eat lots of unhealthy fats, and actually worse when you combine it with sugar. Thankfully, keto doesn't do that, but there is an increased risk in some cardiovascular disease. However, we also know that losing weight reduces your risk of cardiovascular disease. So I'm really personally interested to see where the keto diet comes out on that. I think there's a lot of room for. I think it might be proven to be pretty beneficial. But again, you can't really say. We have to wait. Paleo diet. I don't hear about as much anymore. It's more of became very popular like in the CrossFit industry. So a quick overview shows that it is effective for weight loss, 5 to 15 pounds over a few months. But most of these studies involve younger individuals. You think college, a lot of these studies are done in college, which include most of the time, like white males aged 18 to 24. And a lot of these people are also doing CrossFit, so it's hard to kind of see. But those are two of the diets I'd say that are more popular that have emerging evidence. And I'm not going to go into like intermittent fasting or anything like that at this time. However, certainly we'll take questions at the end regarding those. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So looking at those diets that have the most evidence, I want us to remember that the rule of consistency. So consistency and inclusion of a variety of foods. It's easier to be consistent with a less restrictive diet than with a restrictive diet. What does that mean? Well, a restrictive diet is one that says you can eat this, but you can't eat that. Or you can't eat this, but you can eat that. Whereas an inclusive diet would say like, well, let's eat a lot of everything and there's no foods that are totally off the table. However, we definitely want to limit certain foods. So it's easier to eat a diet that is less restrictive. And here's some examples. So Bill and Sue are doing a vegetarian diet and they get invited to the Smiths for 4th of July. They have hot dogs, cheeseburgers, and beer. So, I mean, Bill and Sue you can overcome that fairly easily. You just have to bring some of your food. But for most of us, we probably, unless you have like some sort of like a strong reason why you're doing vegetarian, for me, it would be very hard to pass up cheeseburgers and beer. Another one, like Bill and Sue are doing keto, but Jenny brought in Bagel Tree bagels this morning, fresh out of the oven. My favorite is the cinnamon sugar ones that they make. But later that day, they attend their friend's 4-year-old birthday party with 20 other 4-year-olds at Splits, which I definitely may or may not have been the one that had my 4-year-old's birthday party at Splits. Usually there's cake, soda, a few pitchers of beer because there's 24-year-olds. You're doing the keto diet, you go there, they're going to have cake and soda and everything like that. It's, again, you can totally maintain your diet, but it's going to be difficult because a lot of those foods that are mentioned there are actually restricted in the keto diet. Lastly, Bill and Sue are doing Atkins diet, but Sunday afternoon they have a yearly church potluck at River Forks, which I don't know if you've ever been to one of those, but there's usually a lot of deep fried chicken, followed with puddings and cookies and stuff like that. So again, you totally could do the Atkins diet and you could be consistent with it. However, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get the consistency that we're looking for. So the big rule for picking a diet, consistency. And how do we get consistency? Well, it's easier to be consistent if you include a variety of foods and try to be less restrictive. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So we talked a little bit about diets and is there a specific one that's best? I would say no, there's not a specific diet that's like absolute best. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people who are going to come and say like, no, absolutely keto is the way to go, or no, vegetarian is what you should do. And there you can throw evidence supporting any of those diets. My big thing, and again, the broad overview of talking about diets is we're looking for something that we can be consistent with, because consistency is going to get us results. And we're looking at something that's inclusive. Again, we're not shooting for weight loss, we're shooting for a healthy lifestyle. And so by being able to be consistent in our lifestyle, we should get results that we're kind of looking for. So exercise. This is kind of a sticking point for a lot of people. Do I have to? Well, the answer is it's kind of like that flossing thing you see at the dentist. It says, do I have to floss? And they say, no, only the teeth you want to keep. Well, exercise is kind of the same. It's like, do you have to? No, but you probably should because you need to keep your heart healthy. So some of the things I hear, I'm a busy mom or dad of 4 kids. How am I supposed to exercise? Does chasing my kid around count? I don't want to go to the gym, or my gym was shut down from COVID, or I have never been in a gym. I don't know how to use the equipment. I don't even know where to start. Other questions. What sort of exercise is best for weight loss? Is it cardio? Is it weightlifting? Is it high intensity interval training? And then lastly, never exercised before. How do I start? And should I see my doctor first? Next slide. So the recommendation for minimum amount of exercise. This is from the American Academy of Sports Medicine. So currently the minimum recommended amount of activity is 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity each week. So that's 30 minutes 5 times a week. But again, this is the minimum recommendation. If you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to build a healthier lifestyle, you probably should be shooting for a little bit higher eventually. So moderate to vigorous, those are just descriptors we use for the type of exercise you're doing, because walking is different than backpacking up Mount Everest. We have qualifiers. So what counts as vigorous? Well, hiking uphill with a heavy backpack, running, swimming laps, aerobic dancing, yard work like raking and digging, cycling 10 miles an hour or faster, jumping rope. Basically, any activity that you're doing where it's difficult and uncomfortable to talk. That's how you can kind of count that as vigorous. What counts as moderate? So brisk walking, not like a leisurely stroll, but brisk walking, water aerobics, bike riding, dancing, doubles tennis, lawnmower, yard work, hiking, rollerblading, basically any activity that you're doing where you can still talk, but it's kind of difficult to maintain a full conversation. That would be considered moderate. So if we look back at our mom or dad who's chasing around their 4-year-olds, well, when I'm chasing around my kids, usually it's not for a super long time unless they like really get away and I have to catch them. But you're generally able to hold a conversation like, hey, Jimmy, come back here. Don't eat that popsicle or something like that. So a lot of times we actually aren't getting the exercise that we think that we're getting. So again, remember those 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity per week is the minimum recommendation. Next slide. So forms of exercise. Should I be doing cardio or weightlifting or full body workouts for weight loss? Well, I kind of want to dumb it down and say the first rule of thumb, do whatever you like the most, but make sure you do it. Exercise is meant to be fun. I've got this quilt right here in the background. This is a quilt of Oregon. You can see all those colors back there. Oregon is awesome. It is basically this perfect state for any outdoor activities that you want to do. Hiking was on that list, bike riding, mountain biking, walking to a lake, taking your kids around the park. There's all sorts of things that you can do outdoor, especially right now in this weather. And that counts as exercise. It's meant to be fun. And remember, anything is better than nothing. The second rule of thumb, make sure you're working hard. A leisurely stroll doesn't count as exercise, even though you're moving. It's good. I think it's really good that people go walking. It's awesome. It's way better than sitting. However, again, we're trying to get at least 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous. So that's maybe we just need to pick up the pace a little bit with our walk, or maybe we just need to walk faster for a little bit and then slow down. We just need to make sure that we're actually putting in a little bit of hard work so we can get some of the benefits of the full benefits of exercise. The third rule of thumb, make sure whatever exercise regimen you're doing does involve some sort of exercise to get your heart rate up. It has significant benefits, not only for weight loss, but also in terms of overall health, your heart, your lungs, things like that. So in short, cardio, weightlifting, full body, yes, you should be doing those. Pick the ones that you like the most and do them. That's kind of where I would start with. Make sure it's fun. Make sure you're having a good time. Again, we're looking for a healthy lifestyle. No one's going to want to, at least me personally, I'm not going to want to wake up at 3 a.m. and go run 4 miles in the snow in December and do that for a whole year. It's just not going to be, I'm not going to be able to do it. So look for ways to build exercise and activity into your day in ways that you think are fun and entertaining, ways that you can foresee yourself doing it for a lifetime. Next slide. So how do you start an exercise program? Well, this is totally dependent on what your current fitness level is. If you're brand new to exercise, then I would simply start with a 15-minute brisk walk after dinner each night. A lot of times this lowers blood sugars. It helps with falling asleep. The weather right now is really good. 15-minute brisk walk. That's where I would probably start. If you do have prior experience, you might want to start at a higher level. Maybe you are someone who used to run a long ways and you just haven't run in a little bit. Maybe just go out and run like a little mile or jog for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. The general rule that you want to push yourself, however, you want to avoid injuries. So just pick something and start. Pick it and start low and go slow. You can always build up later. A lot of times you'll see guys in the gym who used to be big weightlifters and have been out of it for a while go on and they try to throw lots of weight onto any bench press that they're doing, and they have a hard time doing it. And a lot of times you get injured, you fall back out of your exercise routine, and it's hard to get started. Another great way to start, just join a gym. There's lots of gyms here in Roseburg. A lot of them are owned by fellow members in our community, and a lot of them are really great gyms. If you're scared of using equipment or have questions on how to do exercises, there's personal trainers, Fitness First, Anytime Fitness, Body Shop in Sutherland, Planet Fitness, and the YMCA, just off the top of my head, all have personal trainers that either come as part of the membership, or they have group classes that are run by personal trainers that are for all beginning levels. That's a great way to get an intro. Just sign up for an introduction to a gym and don't care what anyone else is doing. Because again, we're shooting for our own healthy lifestyle. We're not in here to break records. We're not in here to bend bars. We're just trying to get some good exercise. The way that I like to do things now with COVID and gyms becoming shut down and things like that is there's online subscription services. So you see commercials for the Peloton, that fancy mirror thing. I use one called Street Parking, which is like a CrossFit type style workout that does programming for me. And there's other free online programs. This allows you to work out from home. It's nice. It was really nice when COVID was shutting down gyms. A lot of these are like minimal equipment. You might say like, well, I don't have any equipment at my house. Well, you can Google subscription service with minimal equipment. right now with the street parking thing that I'm doing in April, they have a dumbbell only workout that's all month. And so there's all you need is 2 dumbbells and you can do every single exercise that they're doing. So that's a great thing, especially if you're a busy mom or busy dad with kids. Starting an exercise routine at home with your family, it's awesome. I love when I go home at lunch. My kids usually will be out there and they're going to ask me if I'm going to exercise, which one you want to tell them yes, even when I don't feel like it. But 2, a lot of times they want to come do it with you, which is actually really fun. You're kind of showing the next generation how to be healthy. The 4th thing, I would say go see your primary care provider if you have questions on how to start. They can always help in the development of a program for you, or if they don't know, they should be able to direct you to somebody who does know. I think that's always a great place. You should go ask them questions. We're here, especially Evergreen, we're just here to answer questions and support you in all your facets of health, whether that's treating chronic conditions, talking to you about relationships, or even like helping you come up with an exercise routine. All right, next slide. So the medical side of things. If you have multiple chronic conditions, and I'm talking about like diabetes, COPD, heart failure, like anything like that, you should probably be evaluated by your primary care before beginning a new workout. The good news is that exercise is actually one of the leading treatments for almost all chronic conditions. It should only help, but it's probably a good idea to make sure that you're safe to start. There may be some things that are going on that your primary care provider wants to get figured out before they just fully release you to go start an exercise routine, but it's a good place to start with just meeting with one of them. Okay, at the beginning, you heard me talk about medicines for weight loss. I want to be clear about this. There's been nothing that's been proven to promote long-term weight loss. So, and our goal is long-term weight loss, right? Many weight loss medications show no difference in overall weight loss 6 months after treatment compared to people without these medicines. So like phentermine is a big one that's out there. People like to take phentermine because you lose weight pretty quickly right away. However, when you look at people who take phentermine and you compare them to people who don't, and you look at it in month 1, yes, there's like a 4-pound difference. In month 2, maybe there's a 2 or 3. At 4, 5, 6, 7, 1 year later, there's absolutely no difference in weight loss. So if we're remember, we're framing this by saying our goal is a healthy lifestyle. We're trying to be as healthy as possible. We're trying to choose a diet which is not restrictive, that's inclusive. We're trying to build exercise that's fun, that we like to do. We're trying to get exercise, and we're not shooting for weight loss. We're shooting for healthy lifestyle. Then medicines really don't have that much of a role in weight loss. This is, of course, my opinion. Okay. So like there's other people out there who might think differently, and that's totally okay. But this is my opinion. I feel like it's backed by quite a bit of science though. Now, there are conditions that make it harder to lose weight: hypothyroidism, diabetes, some mental health conditions, COPD, osteoarthritis, low back pain. These are just a few of things. Sometimes there's medicines that we give people that treat a condition, but their side effect actually has weight gain. And you can always, if you're having difficult time losing weight, if you're doing all these things we're talking about and you're not losing weight, then absolutely go talk to your primary care. Have them look at your medicine, see if there's something that they can change, maybe that there's something they can reduce. But go talk with them. I wouldn't just stop something because you read about it online. I would absolutely go talk to your primary care and just ask them a question. But work with them, and they can help develop a plan for you that kind of sets you up for success. Next slide. So the last thing, I think these are the 4 starter points. So remember, I've said it a lot. Our goal is not weight loss. It's a healthy lifestyle change. All weight loss is not the same, and it's all not necessarily helpful. I put in here, YOLO, you only live once. Food is super good, and our relationship with food is multifaceted. I love my brother's cheesecake. He makes an amazing cheesecake, and I would be really sad if I couldn't eat that. I eat peach cobbler. It reminds me of my grandma who passed away like 4 years ago. It is a complicated relationship we have with food. And by removing certain foods, it has more of an impact on on some of your like overall health and even some of your psyche and things like that. So I want us to be able to enjoy food. It's a gift, but we just need to be smart about it. Okay. So look to change the diet to more inclusive. I tell a lot of people that are just starting a new diet. If your diet's just standard American, which is what most of us eat, what I say is eat lots of colors, and Skittles don't count as colors. So add a vegetable and 1 fruit per day. Do those things. A lot of times people actually eat the same amount of calories per day, whether it's healthy foods or unhealthy foods. So by substitution, by just adding a vegetable or fruit per day, odds are if your overall diet's not very healthy, you're probably going to get rid of some of those unhealthy foods without even noticing it. So just add a vegetable and add 1 fruit per day. Look to reduce foods in packages. So anything that comes in a box, can, frozen, try to reduce it unless it's, of course, like whole vegetables that are frozen or something like that. And look to reduce sweets, both liquid and solid. Sodas, everyone can look at a soda and say like, yeah, it's probably not super healthy. Diet sodas even are shown not to be super healthy. That might be triggering to some people that hear that. Including Dr. Clyde, who I work with. And then looking juices actually as well. Juices can usually packed full of sugar. Gatorade's packed full of sugar. Try to reduce those things. And then lastly, try not to get seconds. Sometimes it comes down to just eating less food. Of course, if the food's awesome, go get seconds, but let's not make a habit out of it. So third starter point. Look to increase exercise in whatever way you can. Remember, any is better than none, and 150 minutes a week is the minimum recommendation. We're shooting for a healthy lifestyle. Some of the ways you can do this, you park, if you go to Sherm's and you park in the back of the parking lot, you could do a brisk walk all the way to the front of Sherm's. And there you go. You just got like 3 minutes of exercise. If you go golfing, you can carry your golf clubs instead of riding in a cart. I love riding in a cart, but I should probably carry more. Go to the park on a Saturday and go play around. Maybe jump in with your kids and play a little bit of tag for 15 minutes. Volunteer as a soccer coach. You can get exercise doing some of that stuff with the little kids. Trust me, there's plenty of energy for them. And then lastly, I want to say our questions about specific diet should be directed to your primary care. Probably not just the internet. We should listen to what's out there, and people are very smart. Many people can just look online and they can look up diets, they can look up studies and things, and generally people are pretty intelligent when it comes to reading stuff online. However, I would ask those of you who look stuff online, just filter it through your primary care. Maybe that you'll even bring something that we don't know. I mean, I definitely don't know everything there is about diet and exercise. And if someone brings studies into me, that's awesome. I love to learn about this stuff. But just filter it through there. Don't just read it and take it for what it's worth. Maybe do a little bit more research and filter it through your primary care. So those are our 4 starter points. Okay. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So yeah. So questions. So just so you guys know, most of the studies that I was citing and stuff was found at this link that's a Harvard School of Public Health. They talk a lot about diets. There's a lot of great information on that website as well. So with that, that's 34 minutes. I think we did pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of questions. And the first one comes from Renee. She was asking about weight training.
Yeah.
Back when you were talking about all the kinds of different exercises and, practices that you can get into. So what about weight training?
Weight training is awesome. I love it. Weight training is, there's lots of different ways you can weight train. You can be a power lifter. You can be a regular 3-day-a-week weightlifter. A lot of times, for most of us, what we're looking for is to do full body circuits. So like, I think Planet Fitness has a circuit, but basically you want to work out like your legs as much as you work out your arms, as much as you work out your chest and your back. And you're wanting to do anywhere between 3 to 4 sets, probably of 10 to 14 That's probably what I would start with. And you can use a variety of the machines. One great way when you're weight training to get your heart rate up is actually to decrease the rest in between your sets as well. So if you say you're doing curls in the corner and you're doing curls and you do 14 of them. Well, sometimes we put the weights down, we sit there for like a minute, check your phone, look at the TV. Well, if you decreased your rest, well, there you go. You just kept your heart rate up and you're getting a little bit of cardio exercise as well with that. So that's one hack. But yeah, I love weight training. I think it's awesome.
Now, one thing that I thought of, and thank you for the question, Renee. One thing that I thought of was that weight training for weight loss might be a little bit problematic because muscle weighs more than fat. Isn't that right?
You are right. And I love this question, Brian. I can't believe you said it. So one common misconception is people will come in and they're like, I started a weight training exercise program like 2 weeks ago and I'm heavier. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not because you gained muscle in 2 weeks. So you might be getting stronger, but for an untrained individual, the gains you make in the first 8 weeks are all neuro. So when you're doing curls, we'll just keep it at curls. When you're doing curls and you start a new exercise routine, brand new to it, and you're doing 5 pounds, 2 weeks later, you're doing 10 pounds, 3 weeks later, 15 pounds. You are not actually getting stronger. Your muscles are not getting any bigger, but your neural links to those muscles are getting refined and you're recruiting more fibers to lift. Therefore, you're stronger. So you actually aren't going to see any hypertrophy, which is the muscle growth, for like at least 8 weeks at the earliest, probably more like 12 weeks till you actually start gaining muscle mass, which is that weight. So yeah, you totally can gain weight. Usually you need to be eating a lot of food to gain weight because you need protein and stuff to build those muscles. But I'm going to tell you right now, you didn't gain weight because you started weightlifting 2 weeks ago. You probably are just hungrier because now you're exercising a lot more food and you might be retaining a little bit more food.
That's good. Okay. And then you touched on this a little bit, but for a while you hadn't. And so this is my question.
Yeah.
So what about, just setting a different attitude on food? So when I'm full, I'm going to purposely leave some food on my plate, maybe take smaller portions.
Yeah.
And then if I could just cut soda and eat a little bit less, I know I'm moving in the right direction. Where is that in all of this?
That is what you just said is awesome. If people came in to me and said like, hey, this is what I want to do, Michael, I would say, hey, that is a great place to start. If you're new to starting diets, and one thing that happens a lot is people will go from 0 to 100 in regards to a diet. So like you'll see people that are like, at McDonald's mowing down on a ice cream cone. They're like, tomorrow my keto diet starts. And you're like, okay, well, I mean, that's pretty good. But if you really like ice cream, you're probably not going to be able to do keto for a super long time because you love ice cream. So that's why we were talking about that philosophical change with eating an inclusive diet, because you can just simply not eat as much, which if you remember on our slide, we talked about maybe eating less and not going back for seconds is a great place to start. And then just eliminating soda. A lot of times people will just eliminate it and they'll lose like 10 pounds. It's crazy that they'll just go off like that. Mm-hmm. Soda is pretty addictive, so it's not easy. Like I love LaCroix. But I know if you're like I've talked to hardcore Pepsi drinkers and they're like, I'm going to tell you right now, LaCroix doesn't do it for me. So sometimes it's more like, okay, if you like, a ice cold Pepsi on a hot day is super good. But so maybe we just do that like, I don't know, once a week, twice a week instead of every single day. It's like, I love Pepsi. It's super good. Just don't do it every day.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, here on Evergreen Talks, we love interacting with people. So questions are very helpful and keep the conversation going a little bit. Any final thoughts here, Michael, before we sign off?
No, I mean, if you guys have more questions, I mean, absolutely. There's a ton of people at Evergreen who know a lot about diet. So come talk to us. we all work together here at Evergreen as well. So if maybe like you're having a hard time getting like an exercise program or specific questions, totally just ask your primary care to talk to them, or they can help you talk to somebody else. But we're just here to support all of you guys, no matter if you're going from couch to a 10K, or you're like a Division I college baseball player looking to like refine some things on their diet. I think that we can help a lot of people with diet and stuff like that. I think diet is an underutilized treatment when it comes to medicine, and we don't talk about it enough because a lot of times we don't know where or how to. So I think we should just all go out there maybe today and go get some exercise.
All right. Thank you, Michael. And thank you to everybody watching. Thank you to those who come to this later when we're not live. And if you'd like to, please tune in for Evergreen Talks every month on Facebook with Evergreen Family Medicine, where our physicians, providers, and specialists present topics that matter to you. We'll be back again the second Thursday of each month at 4 o'clock. That'll be June the 10th is our next show. So we'll see you then. Michael, thanks again. I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, thank you. You too. We'll talk to you later.